It is incredibly easy to doubt your own reality when you are trapped in a toxic relationship. You find yourself trapped in a relentless loop of second-guessing your memory, your feelings, and your sanity, wondering if you are just overreacting or being too sensitive. The constant confusion makes it nearly impossible to clearly see what is happening right in front of you. One day they are warm and loving, and the next they are cold, critical, and dismissive. This unpredictable behavior keeps you off balance, desperately trying to fix a problem you didn't create, while you slowly lose confidence in your own judgment. This deep sense of mental fog happens because of a psychological trap called cognitive dissonance. It is a stressful state where your brain desperately tries to hold on to two completely conflicting ideas at the same time. On one hand, you remember the charming, caring person they pretended to be at the start, or the rare moments when they show you affection. On the other hand, you are facing the harsh reality of a person who regularly hurts, devalues, and manipulates you. Because it is too painful to accept that someone you care about could purposefully mistreat you, your brain creates excuses for them. You tell yourself they are just having a bad day, or that if you just change your behavior, they will go back to being kind. This script is designed to completely cut through that heavy fog and give you your reality back. When you are living in the middle of this chaos, you cannot see the forest for the trees, and that is exactly what a manipulator relies on to keep you compliant. We are going to strip away the excuses, the justifications, and the polite labels, diving straight into the exact behavioral patterns of narcissistic abuse. By laying out these hidden tactics clearly, you can finally identify the invisible trap you have been living in and get the unshakable clarity you need to break free and reclaim your life. It is vital to understand that these toxic dynamics are not just limited to romantic relationships. While we often hear about narcissistic partners, the exact same manipulative patterns show up across every area of life. This could be a parent who uses guilt to control you, a sibling who constantly competes with and belittles you, a boss who shifts the goalposts to keep you anxious, or a close friend who subtly drains your energy while pretending to support you. No matter what role this person plays in your life, if you feel like you are walking on eggshells and losing your mind around them, the root cause is identical. The title they hold does not excuse the damage they do, and recognizing the pattern is your first step toward freedom. 1. 0. Sanity or accountability. A healthy, functional relationship of any kind is built on a very simple foundation: basic kindness, mutual respect, and a shared reality. When two mature people have a disagreement, they can sit down, talk about it, and work toward a solution together. But the moment you enter a toxic dynamic, that entire foundation vanishes, and you completely lose your sense of reality. You quickly realize that there is no safe space to voice your feelings, ask a question, or express hurt. Instead of a calm conversation, you are met with an alternate reality where facts are twisted, timelines are rewritten, and your memory is brought into question. It makes you feel like you are losing your mind because you cannot get them to acknowledge basic, undeniable facts about what just happened. The most defining characteristic of this dynamic is what happens when you actually try to address a problem or express that your feelings were hurt. The toxic person will never stop, listen, and care. Instead, they will instantly spin the entire situation completely back on you using a highly manipulative tactic. Suddenly, the focus shifts entirely away from the hurtful thing they did, and the entire conversation becomes about how you brought it up, the tone of voice you used, or how unfair you are being to them. Within a matter of minutes, you are forced onto the defensive. You find yourself apologizing, comforting them, and trying to smooth things over, completely forgetting that you were the one who was hurt in the first place. You literally become the villain in their story simply for having the audacity to ask for basic respect. To truly understand who you're dealing with, you have to pay incredibly close attention to how they handle a mistake or a boundary. A genuine apology requires a person to look at their own behavior, feel true remorse for the pain they caused, and actively change their actions moving forward so it doesn't happen again. A narcissist is psychologically incapable of doing this because their fragile ego cannot handle the weight of being wrong. If they do apologize, it is usually a fake, manipulative statement like, "I'm sorry you feel that way," or a temporary charm offensive designed to make you drop the subject. If someone repeatedly hurts you in the exact same way, promises to stop, but continues the behavior the moment the dust settles, they are showing you exactly who they are. They are not sorry they did it, they are just sorry they got caught, and they will absolutely keep hurting you as long as you let them. Accepting this truth is incredibly painful, but it is the only way to save yourself. People either have the character to care about your pain, or they simply don't. There is no middle ground, and there is no hidden switch you can flip to fix them. You cannot love someone into gaining an active conscience. You cannot explain your pain clearly enough to make them develop empathy, and you cannot sacrifice enough of your own soul to make them whole. They do not possess the necessary emotional tools, self-awareness, or emotional maturity to grant you a safe, stable, and happy life. Continuing to throw your energy, love, and time into a person like this is like trying to draw water from a completely dry well. You will only end up completely empty, exhausted, and broken, while they remain entirely unchanged. 2. Walking on eggshells and shrinking yourself. In the normal world, mature adults do not explode, fall apart, or throw massive tantrums over tiny, everyday inconveniences or differences of opinion. Healthy adults understand that the world does not revolve around them, and they can handle a minor disagreement or a change in plans with ease. Narcissists, however, operate on absolute hairline triggers. They possess a deep, toxic sense of entitlement, firmly believing that they deserve preferential treatment, constant praise, and total uncritical compliance from everyone around them. They expect you to anticipate their every need and mood, and the very moment you fail to meet their impossible, unspoken standards, the trap snaps shut. When they do not get the exact validation or control they feel entitled to, they immediately punish you. This punishment can take many different forms, depending on their specific style of manipulation. It might look like an explosive, terrifying outburst of rage designed to shock you into silence. Or it might be a cold, calculating wall of silence, the silent treatment, where they completely ignore your existence for days on end, leaving you desperate to do whatever it takes just to get them to speak to you again. In other cases, they will use subtle, cruel threats of abandonment, hinting that they will leave you, replace you, or ruin your reputation if you do not fall perfectly into line. Because of this constant threat of punishment, you slowly and quietly begin to change your entire personality just to survive. This is where the classic feeling of walking on eggshells comes from. You find yourself constantly scanning their face, watching their body language, and gauging the energy in the room the second they walk in, trying to predict their mood so you can protect yourself. Take a hard, honest look at what you are holding back in this relationship. Are there normal, everyday topics, like your future goals, your finances, a hobby you love, or a friend you saw, that you could talk to absolutely anyone else about without a second thought, but feel absolutely terrified to bring up with this specific person? If you are constantly shrinking your own values, filtering your speech, hiding your achievements, and stepping completely outside your own comfort zone just to keep the peace and prevent them from exploding, you need to call it what it is. You are no longer living in a loving, reciprocal relationship. You are being actively managed by fear. You are sacrificing pieces of your identity, your happiness, and your self-worth every single day just to buy a few hours of temporary calm from a person who will never be truly satisfied. 3. You don't recognize yourself anymore. To truly understand how deeply a toxic relationship is affecting you, you need to step back and look at how you behave with the rest of the world versus how you behave around this one person. Think about your normal interactions with friends, coworkers, or neighbors. If you know that you are generally a person of integrity, someone who listens well, stays calm, compromises, and gets along with most people in your life, but this specific relationship turns you into an angry, frantic, hyper-defensive, or screaming version of yourself, that is a massive, flashing red flag. It is incredibly jarring to look in the mirror and realize you don't even recognize the desperate, stressed-out person looking back at you. This radical shift in your personality happens because your core boundaries are being violently dismantled every single day, and standard modes of human operation simply do not stand a chance against their behavior. You are playing a game where the rules change constantly, and the other player is actively trying to break your spirit. One of the primary ways they break down your sanity is by dragging you into exhausting circular arguments that make your head spin. A conversation with a narcissist is never about finding a resolution. It is about keeping you confused and defensive. The moment you corner them with logic or call them out on a specific hurtful action, they will instantly shift the goalposts. They will switch topics entirely, bring up unrelated mistakes you made 5 years ago, or make completely irrational points that make absolutely no sense. If you try to pull them back to the original issue, they will accuse you of being aggressive, disloyal, or crazy. These arguments go round and round on bizarre tangents until you are so mentally depleted, dizzy, and exhausted that you completely forget what the fight was even about, which is exactly what they wanted all along. The ultimate psychological trap of this dynamic is that you find yourself wasting massive amounts of your limited emotional energy trying to prove to them that you are a good person. This happens because a narcissist is a master of psychological projection. They will regularly and ruthlessly accuse you of the exact things they are actually doing. They will look you in the eye and accuse you of lacking integrity, being a liar, being completely unfaithful, making everything about yourself, or using people for your own personal gain. Because you actually care about your character and value love and honesty, you will feel deeply incensed and heartbroken by these twisted accusations. You will double down, trying extremely hard to explain yourself, defend your intentions, and convince them of your innocence. But you need to realize that this is a deadly hook. If you believe that your integrity, character, self-worth, and safety are dependent on what this toxic person thinks of you, you will remain perpetually trapped in their cycle, running on a hamster wheel, trying to earn approval from a judge who has already rigged the trial against you. 4. You are always cleaning up their messes. Being closely connected to a narcissist means living in a chaotic world where disasters are always looming right over the horizon. These individuals are completely addicted to chasing what is known as narcissistic supply, a constant stream of attention, praise, admiration, and public acclaim. They want to fly high and feel superior to everyone else, but they have absolutely zero interest in the boring, practical details of daily life, financial accountability, or basic sensibility. They make impulsive decisions, pick fights, spend money they don't have, and break promises with little to no thought for doing the right thing or honoring their obligations. They live entirely in the moment for their own gratification, completely blind to the trail of wreckage they leave behind them. Because they refuse to be responsible adults, that heavy burden automatically falls squarely onto your shoulders, turning you into their permanent, unpaid caretaker. You find yourself constantly operating in crisis mode, sorting out their sudden dramas, paying their overdue bills or fines, and dealing with the fallout of their reckless behavior. It gets even worse. You often find yourself compromised, forced to lie for them, make excuses to their boss, or cover up their tracks just to protect their fragile reputation and keep your shared life from imploding. You become the buffer between them and the real world, absorbing all the shockwaves of their bad choices while they skate away completely scot-free, ready to create the next disaster. There is a perfect analogy for what this lifestyle does to your soul. It is exactly like standing on their property, using all of your time, energy, and water to keep their back lawn beautifully green and lush, while you look over the fence and watch your own lawn get completely parched, turn brown, and die from total neglect. This is precisely how narcissists stroll through life, and this is exactly what happens to the sensible, well-meaning, and responsible people they actively recruit into their world. They look for reliable fixers who will clean up after them so they can keep playing their games without consequences. You have to realize that by constantly saving them from themselves, you are draining your own bank account, your own emotional reserves, and your own future. The only way to save your own lawn is to drop the hose, step away from their mess, and let them face the natural consequences of their actions, while you finally use your resources to rebuild your own life with self-responsibility. 5. Your boundaries have dissolved. It is a harsh but necessary truth to accept that narcissists do not choose their targets at random. They actively and deliberately look for empathetic, kind-hearted people who struggle to say no or who have a hard time holding firm boundaries. They view your kindness as a weakness to exploit and your patience as permission to push you around. In the beginning, they will test your limits with small, subtle boundary violations to see how you react. If you let it slide to keep the peace, they will push a little further next time. The moment you finally find your courage, open your mouth and try to speak up, stand up for yourself, or draw a hard line in the sand, you quickly realize that normal communication rules do not apply. They will not respect your boundary, apologize for crossing it, or try to understand your perspective. Instead, they will instantly punish you for daring to have a voice. This punishment is a calculated attempt to break your resolve and train you to never challenge them again. If you tell them no, or ask for basic respect, they will attack your character with biting criticism, make you feel guilty for being selfish, or completely reject you. One of their favorite weapons is the agonizing silent treatment, where they withdraw all affection, ignore your texts, and look right through you as if you don't exist, leaving you in a state of high anxiety for days on end. Over time, this constant threat of punishment completely wears you down. You become mentally and emotionally exhausted from fighting an endless, losing battle. Eventually, a dangerous shift happens inside you. You simply stop trying. To avoid the terrifying, inevitable blowout that comes with asserting yourself, you give up on your own needs entirely, burying your desires, your opinions, and your self-respect just to maintain a fragile, temporary calm. As your boundaries completely disintegrate, you sink into a dark, heavy place of total powerlessness, helplessness, and deep despair. You find yourself trapped in a heartbreaking dynamic where you are no longer communicating like an equal adult. Instead, you are crying, begging, or pleading with them just to show you an ounce of basic human empathy, kindness, or fairness. You find yourself literally begging the person who claims to care about you to stop hurting you, to listen to you, or to just acknowledge your pain. And this is where the most devastating realization of narcissistic abuse hits you. When you look into their eyes in those raw, painful moments, you discover that they have absolutely zero empathy for you. seeing that your tears do not move them, that your heartbreak does not soften them, and that they genuinely do not care about the damage they are causing, is a deeply shattering and profoundly isolating experience that leaves you feeling completely alone in the world. 6. The trauma bond addiction. When you are trapped in a relationship with a narcissist, you will often find yourself behaving in ways that completely terrify and confuse you. You might know with absolute intellectual certainty that this person is destroying your mental health, ruining your peace, and treating you terribly. Yet despite knowing how badly you are going to get hurt, you feel a manic, overwhelming, and almost uncontrollable urge to contact them, check their social media, or hook back up with them. This is not a sign that you are stupid, weak, or crazy. What you are experiencing is a literal chemical addiction in your brain, technically known as a trauma bond. It is one of the most powerful psychological traps on earth, and it defies all logic, common sense, and self-preservation. This perverse addiction is forged in the fires of an intense, chaotic roller coaster ride of extreme highs and devastating lows. In a normal relationship, affection and safety are relatively stable and predictable. But with a narcissist, the relationship operates like a rigged slot machine in a casino. One week they are showering you with intense love, praise, gifts, and validation, making you feel like the most special person in the world. The next week, without warning, they plunge you into the freezing cold of devaluation, criticism, and abandonment. This unpredictable switching triggers a massive chemical storm in your brain. When they reject you, your stress hormones spike into a state of panic, and when they finally throw you a tiny crumb of affection or validation, your brain floods with dopamine. You become chemically hooked on the relief of their return, constantly chasing that next high of their approval. It can be horrifying to step back and look at how deeply addicted you are to someone who treats you like garbage. You might find yourself driving to their house late at night, picking up their phone calls, or making excuses to let them back into your life, all while a voice in your head is screaming at you to stop. It is vital that you stop beating yourself up for this. You need to understand that this is a highly complex emotional and biological trap, not a lack of willpower or a character flaw. The narcissist has systematically conditioned your nervous system to rely on them as both the source of your pain and the only cure for it. Recognizing that you are dealing with a literal addiction is the breakthrough moment, because it means you can stop treating this as a simple relationship problem and start treating it as a recovery process, understanding that the only way to break the chemical bond is to go completely cold turkey and cut off the supply. 7. Your body is breaking down. Your mind is incredibly powerful, and when you are trapped in a toxic relationship, it will do everything it can to help you survive. It will make excuses for the toxic person, minimize the insults, and rationalize the absolute worst behavior just to keep you going day after day. But while your mind is busy spinning stories to make sense of the chaos, your body is keeping a meticulous record of the truth. Your body doesn't care about their excuses, their bad childhood, or their promises to change. It only experiences the raw reality of being under constant psychological attack. Eventually, the discrepancy between what you are telling yourself and the stress you are actually enduring becomes too much to handle. Your body will stop waiting for your mind to wake up and will start speaking the truth for you through physical pain, sickness, and exhaustion. Living with a narcissist means your nervous system is forced into a state of chronic, unending survival mode. You are constantly trapped in a fight or flight response, flooding your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline every single day. Your body was never designed to run on this toxic fuel long term. Over months and years, this unrelenting tension completely wears down your physical health, draining your immune system and hijacking your biology. This prolonged trauma frequently manifests as severe, unexplainable chronic fatigue, where you wake up feeling utterly exhausted no matter how many hours you sleep. It triggers sudden, terrifying panic attacks out of nowhere because your nervous system is entirely fried. It causes severe insomnia, agonizing migraines, digestive issues, and debilitating conditions like fibromyalgia or complex PTSD. Your body is quite literally screaming at you that your environment is unsafe, staging a physical intervention because you refuse to leave. As your health declines, you start losing interest in the activities, hobbies, and basic self-care routines that used to give you life, energy, and joy. You stop exercising, you stop eating well, and you forget what it feels like to laugh or relax. Because the toxic person takes up every single ounce of your mental bandwidth, you have absolutely nothing left to give to anyone else, including yourself. You find yourself retreating from the world and isolating yourself from the friends and family members who truly love you. Part of this isolation comes from sheer, bone-deep physical exhaustion. You simply don't have the energy to hold a conversation. But another, darker part comes from deep shame. You are ashamed that you are letting someone treat you this way, ashamed that you can't seem to fix it, and terrified that if people see how broken you've become, they will judge you. So you hide out in the dark, suffering alone with your traumatic symptoms, while the narcissist continues to drain your remaining life force. You need to step back, take a deep breath, and understand a critical distinction. There is a massive difference between someone who is occasionally selfish, moody, or clueless, and someone whose entire behavioral pattern is inherently destructive. Human beings are flawed, and everyone messes up from time to time. But a narcissist operates on a systemic level of exploitation, entitlement, and manipulation. If someone in your life consistently proves that they do not share basic human values, that they do not respect your boundaries, and that they actively and casually disregard your emotional well-being, you need to hear this loud and clear. You cannot fix them. You cannot love them enough, explain things clearly enough, or be perfect enough to cure a disorder that they refuse to acknowledge. The very moment you find yourself trying to change another adult's character or begging them to have a conscience, it is your cue to immediately pull back, drop the rope, and stop playing the game. Accepting that you have to walk away or set ironclad boundaries is one of the hardest things you will ever do, and it comes with an immense amount of grief, pain, and loss. You will grieve the person you thought they were, the potential of what the relationship could have been, and the time you feel you wasted. But you have to weigh that grief against the alternative. Staying in this cycle will cost you your entire life. It will cost you your physical health, your sanity, your financial security, and your identity. Walking away is not a declaration of defeat. It is an act of fierce self-preservation. It is how you finally stop managing their endless manufactured chaos and choose to turn your valuable energy inward. The moment you completely cut ties and walk out of that war zone is the exact moment your real life begins. That is the sacred space where you finally get to rebuild your peace, heal your broken nervous system, and regain your stolen personal power. You can stop looking over your shoulder, stop filtering your speech, and start making choices that honor your own soul. It won't happen overnight, and recovery is a process, but you have the strength to create a genuinely safe, healthy, and truly loving life on your own terms. If these signs hit close to home, and you recognize your own story in these words, please share your thoughts, your struggles, or your victories in the comments below. You are not alone in this.